hard to get in 100.
Okay, Shreya, you ready?
Yeah.
Wow. What do we? I forgot what Mishnayos we're learning. I forgot.
Challah.
Challah. Okay. How many chapters in Challah? I can't remember. 73.
4.
4. Okay. I knew this. You sure? We got 73 chapters of questions. Okay. Okay. We'll go in order of the Mishnayos. Okay. What are the 5 species of grain that are chayav in for you to mafresh challah?
Wheat, barley, rye, oats, and sprouts.
Very good. What's the minimum amount of dough that you have to mafresh challah from?
5 revim or 1 1/4 seah.
Are all the
Kav.
yeah, sorry, yeah. Say would be a ridiculous amount. Are they mistarif? Do they combine to meet the minimum?
Wheat and spelt does.
Good. What's the korban omer? When is the korban omer brought?
Tessim Nisan.
All right. What's korban omer made of?
Barley.
How much barley do they harvest for it?
1 ephah.
How much do they actually use?
1 saron.
How many times do they sift it?
13.
What do they do with the other 90 sarons?
They redeem it.
After the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, this is a question from different Masechta, but you show it. Okay, good. When we say the dough is not nashku, what are we talking about?
It's touching to like the point where if you pulled it, a little piece of the other piece of dough would come off. Good.
Aside from Magago being when it's a circle, what's Rabbi Ezer has an extra din of Magago? When's that?
Once you pour the water over it and it like comes down.
No. One is Magago, one has to do with a basket.
Oh right, when they're all put in a basket with each other.
What happens if you mafresh challah before you're chayav?
Rabbi Eliezer says that.
Rabbi Akiva and
Rabbi Akiva says that if like you're going to add later, then it counts. Like 5 revim, and Tanakama says it doesn't count.
Very good. What happens if you're mafresh challah before you're chayav? You give it to the Kohen, and the Kohen says he won't give it back to you. What's he doing?
Gneva.
Okay. If you sifted bran out of flour and then mixed it back in, what's the din?
If the flour comes up to 5 revim, you're chayav.
How much do you have to mafresh challah? What's the amounts?
If you're a baker, it's 1/48, and like or if you're gonna sell it, but otherwise it's 1/24 if you're doing it for like.
Is there any leniencies if it's tameh?
Yeah, then you have to do 1/48.
What happens if you made a tameh b'mezid on purpose?
Then you have to do 1/24 so that you shouldn't benefit from making something tameh.
When are you allowed to eat ochel arai? What is ochel arai?
It's like snacks.
Okay, when are you allowed to eat ochel arai?
When the challah hasn't reached its gemara malchto.
What is tevel?
Tevel is like a crop that you haven't separated Meiser and Truma from.
What's the ideal time to mafresh challah?
Right when you pour water over it and it like turns to dough.
All right. What's the exception to that then? Exception has to do with if you have a lot of flour.
Oh, if you have flour like over 5 revim of flour that hasn't been mixed in.
Right. When do you not have to mafresh challah from dough?
If it's hektish.
With hektish. What happens if it's magagal by the gizbar of the Beis Hamikdash?
Then you're not chayav.
What happens if he didn't magagal it, but you put it yourself? You redeemed it yourself.
Not chayav.
Right. What's the din of a goy who asked a Jewish baker to make challah for him?
Not chayav.
What's the din if the goy gives him a tana back to the Jew?
Chayav.
What if the dough was given to the Jew? Got it. When does a convert have to mafresh challah? When a ger. When does a ger have to mafresh challah?
If he did the gemara malchto after he converted.
Right.
I don't know if that's possible though.
Yeah, he made the dough ahead of time, but then he was doing the magagal after he converted. Yeah. He's very busy on the day of his conversion. Okay. What's Rabbi Akiva argues with Tanakama about the Gemara Malach of Isas? What is it in Hebrew?
Cream of a tanor.
What's cream of tanor mean?
Like a crust in the oven.
Right. What happens if you make dough out of rice and wheat?
If tom kicker.
Tom kicker, and what does that mean? Explain the situation.
Like, if you just taste the wheat, then the rice it's like the rice was wheat.
And we hold that you can fill mitzvah deraisa of matzah with tom kicker, rice and wheat. What is that?
Except we hold rices.
Yeah, so Ashkenazim can't, but Sfardim could. Good point. So what does that prove about tom kicker?
That's deraisa.
It's deraisa, very good. In this case, very good. What happens if you put a piece of non-mafresh sourdough? Okay, you got it so far. Non-mafresh sourdough into isa that has already been mafreshed.
Then you have to separate from the isa again 1/24.
Well, the first option is you.
Oh, or you take another bread and just separate a little piece.
Right. So you said the second option, right? Okay, good. Two women make dough next to each other, and the doughs are touching, so they equals 1 cob plus 1 cob equals 2 cob now. What's the din?
They're not chayav because hechbed.
Well, not chayav. Say it in English. Why?
Because they care.
Because they care. Because they're makbid, right?
Yeah.
What's the din of mean? When is mean bamino by grains? What are the two that mix?
Wheat and spelt.
Right. When you have 3 doughs, ready? Each a kav, and the middle one is rice. Why doesn't it work to equal 5 or 9?
It's not chayav.
No. When you have wheat, dough.
Yeah, the rice isn't chayav.
And therefore what?
In truma, therefore it can't count as like the thing that connects it.
Why not?
Because you don't have to give truma on it.
Right. And what happens if the middle piece was truma instead of rice? Would that work? To equal 3 cobs?
because it was already separated. It's not yours. You can't like truma isn't chayav in chal.
What happens if it's owned by the Beis Hamikdash? Is that what you're saying? If the middle dough was owned by the Beis Hamikdash,
You're not chayav.
what happens if you? Okay, that's good. What does Rabbi Shmuel say to do when you have a kav of chadash and a kav of yashan?
Separate from the middle, so you take some of both.
Right. Is that a problem of mukaf? No, it's not. Okay, that's a bad question. How do you deal with chalas demai?
You just take from another dough again.
Okay, what's an aris?
A sharecropper.
When does Rama Gamliel hold that a Jewish sharecropper? Why does he hold that a Jewish sharecropper in Syria is pater?
Because it says ariso sechem and it's not your dough. Like it's the guys.
Okay, would Rabbi? Yeah. Okay. How many different kinds of lands are there for challah for making?
3.
What's the most amount of sections of most of the times the mafish challah?
2.
2. What would you do with those 2?
You'd burn one and you give one to the kohen.
If someone says something is haram to the Beis Hamikdash, who does that go to?
It's truma. It goes to a kohen.
Goes to Kohen. Give me another example of something you give to any Kohen.
Pidyon ben.
Is there any body parts you have to give to a Kohen of the animal? Can you think any body parts?
The zroa.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Okay, why did Chazal not accept challah from Nitai? Nitai. He came with challah and they sent him packing.
Because it was tameh and they didn't want people to think that you could bring tameh.
Why was it tameh? Where do you bring it from?
From Syria.
And what's the din of all lands outside Israel?
It's tameh.
Right. Yosef Cohen, when he came on Pesach Sheni to bring korbanos, they sent him and his family away. Why?
Because they didn't want people to think that you have to bring your family to.
Yeah, you're done.
Amazing.
Woo.
Absolutely amazing.
That's a good job.
Mazel tov. Wow.
That's a good job.
What the heck?